Hi friends, welcome back to my channel. Today we're making this mosaic style faux cables hat out of the pattern that I made in the last video. So if you missed it, please check the card up here or wait until the end, and at the end there'll be videos for them on the corners for the right and left-handed. So for this hat, we're using that stitch pattern. We're making this brim first out of single crochet through the back loop only. We're going to do 72 rows of that, then do a single crochet a row along the side of that brim, and I'll tell you how many we need to do there before we get into the pattern that I have demonstrated already in the previous video. It is just a rectangle that I then gathered at the top and sewed the pom-pom on. Okay, so the pom-pom is made from knit picks. It's this one is the faux fur pom-pom, 8 centimeters. There's a link in the description below, so I do get an affiliate kickback if you choose to purchase, but you don't have to, just explaining the product there. Okay, so let's get started. So we're starting with the brim first. So the brim, we're going to chain 6. So I'm getting the end of my yarn here. So I'm just using plain worsted weight yarn and a J size hook for this pattern. It's a J size hook in the Chroma. I think it's a Knit Picks yarn also. It's in Chroma. And I should have found the label, but I didn't. I used just one ball, so that link is in the description below, but I'm using just a worsted weight so you can see it better. So we're going to chain 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. In the second chain from the hook, we are using the back ridge, back bump, back bar to just single crochet in the second chain from the hook and in each across, so that we now have 5 single crochets. So at the end of 5 single crochets, that will be counting as row 1, and we are chaining 1 and turning. So now for mine, for stability's sake, I single crochet through the both loops of the first stitch, then back loop only single crochet for the next 3 stitches. And this is what adds the stretch to this pattern, to this hat, to the brim. And then through the last single crochet of the 5, I'm going through both loops for stability's sake. Okay, so we are, and that makes 2 rows already. So chain 1 and turn, and this is the row that's going to be repeated throughout for a total of 72 rows. So single crochet through both loops of the first stitch, then using just the back loop only of the next 3 stitches, we're single crocheting 1 in each of the next 3 stitches, back loop only, to create the stretch, then through both loops of the final 5th stitch for stability. Okay, and so we now have 3 rows. You're going to do 72, or you're going to do the number that you need for your hat. So for my hat, I have kind of a small head. So for my 72 stitches, that is about 9 1/4 times 2. So that makes 18.5 inches worth of brim before we turn it into a tube. But remember, this is stretchy. Okay, so that's how many mine is. Now if you want to make your hat bigger or smaller, reduce in increments of 6 rows. Okay, so if you want a smaller hat than the 18.5 before stretching, then decrease by a section of 6 rows. Or if you need it bigger, increase by a section of 6 more rows. Got it? Okay, so after we have a tube, after we have a long strip of brim, we're going to take the end of the brim and attach it to the first to make a tube. So this is one long brim, and I just single crocheted through that to make a seam, and never breaking the yarn, I then moved to the side. So if I had, let's see, I guess I should skip ahead here so that I can show you. Okay, I ripped back to this approximation, this step out here. So I did this brim first, and I did not do the stability step of double both loops through the front and back. So that's something I learned while I was swatching. Swatching is important. So when I got done with my number of rows that I needed for my brim, I did not cut the yarn. Instead, I just matched up the ends of my brim, and with my same hook and same yarn without cutting it, I just single crocheted them together. So you can do the back loop only, plus the unused loops of the foundation chain. You can work over that tail. You're just single crocheting the two ends together to form a tube. Okay, so not super critical how this is done, but get it together. And single crocheting it together adds 2 layers of yarn through the stitch, so it's a nice sturdy join as opposed to a whip stitch with a needle. Okay, so once we have our brim joined to make this tube, now we're going to single crochet around the top edge, and we're going to keep the right side, the public side, facing us at all times. So we're not doing any turning on this pattern. So here's where you could go back and reference, well, let's do 1 row of single crochet first, and then you can go back and reference the other video. So under the, on the brim, we're going to single crochet in, and you can, if you don't like this seam here, you can flip the brim so that the seam is on the inside, doesn't matter. But for each row of our brim, remember the rows are going across this way, we're going to single crochet in the first row, single crochet in the side of the next row, and then 2 single crochets in the next row. Now remember, we need to increase the number of stitches here. So single crochet in the next row, single crochet in the next row, 2 single crochets in the next row. Fit them in there. Now we need more stitches than 72. So remember, we started out with 72 rows. I don't want 72 single crochet because I need the hat to stretch with the brim. So if I only have 72, it would make almost like a drawstring around the hat, and the hat wouldn't stretch. And I need this brim to stretch longer than what it is when it's laying loose and relaxed. So we are single crochet, and then 2 single crochets in the next stitch all the way around. If you started with the 72 rows of brim, you will end up with 96 single crochet. Now remember, if you shortened your or made your brim smaller by 6 or by 12, or you increased by 6 or another 6 to make 12, you're going to end up with more stitches or fewer stitches than 96. But if you stick with the 72 and you do single crochet, 2 single crochet, then this single crochet round will have 96. Okay, so I'm going to speed ahead and get that part done, and then we will do our foundation row. I'm only doing half the circle, but let's assume that I have gone all the way around, and I'm joining with a slip stitch in the first single crochet. So I'm going to push that little gappy unused section in there, and we'll pretend it's not there. So I have my hat now, my brim, with my single crochet all the way around. In whatever you do, this is in a multiple of 6. So regardless of what you do with increasing or decreasing, make sure you're in a multiple of 6. Now we're going to start our pattern. And so our pattern is going to be, we're going to chain 1, 2, 3, that counts as the first double crochet, plus 1, 2, 3, that counts as 3 chains. We'll skip 1 stitch and single crochet in the next stitch. Okay, so we essentially have made 1 V straddling over 1 missed stitch. Now we're going to skip. We're going to just chain 1 skip 1, 2, 3 stitches, and then start our next V with double crochet, chain 1, 2, 3, skip 1 stitch, double crochet in the next. So it's kind of a wide-legged stance baseball player at the batter's box. Chain 1, we're skipping 1, 2, 3 and starting our next batter. So one leg here, chain 1, 2, 3 for the baseball bat, skip 1 stitch because his legs are spread or her legs are spread as she's like standing in their stance over the batter's box. Then chain 1, and because we have to give space, and then 1, 2, 3. So do you see the pattern here? So we're just doing these V stitches that are separated by 1 skipped stitch, and there's 3 chains at the top of the V. Then in between each wide-legged V, we're doing a chain 1. So 1, 2, 3, and we'll get all the way around here pretty quickly because I made an abbreviated circle so that we could get working faster. Now, I admit that I originally cared and I was doing this in 1, 2, 3. I was doing this in rows that were joined, and then I figured out how to do it in a spiral so that it didn't really matter and I didn't have to worry about it. So 1, 2, 3. Okay. Now the chroma comes in lots of different colors, and it also comes in different weights. So I'm pretty sure this was the worsted weight chroma that I used. 1, 2, 3. So be careful if you end up buying that exact yarn, and it's a lot like, what's that fancy brand? Noro. It's a lot like Noro, but it's the Knit Picks version. 1, 2, 3, and okay, so we're almost there. Okay, 1, 2, 3. Okay, so what we'll do is we're loosely following the instructions that you found in the last video. And then after this last V, you should just have you should have 3 single crochets left to span the gap between batters. Okay, so in the 1, 2, 3 third chain from the hook, we are joining here. Just to start us out, we're going to chain 1. Okay, and now from henceforth, you can put a stitch marker here in this first stitch if you want, but you don't have to. From henceforth, the rest of the rounds until the top of your hat are all the same. So, well, I guess that's true, but we're working in single crochets right now. So I'm double crocheting over everything, including that chain 3 space, chaining 3, 1, 2, 3, and in that same exact spot, I'm doing another double crochet over everything, 1, 2, and double crocheting there, chain 1. Okay, I'm not doing anything with this chain. We're just hovering over and skipping all of this stuff until we get to the next, the home plate between the batter's legs where he or she is straddling it. Okay, so chain 3, double crochet over around everything. So you're not working in front or behind that chain 3 loop. You are literally working over it as if it's not even there. Okay, so we're doing this all the way around. So skip the chain 3 space, skip the chain 1. We're going to the next batter. We're doing the double crochet in the home plate, 1, 2, 3, and then there in the same stitch, chain 1, skipping everything. Okay, and we will go all the way around so I can show you how to get to the next round. 1, 2, 3. Feet on the home plate again, 2 feet on the home plate, which is 2 stitches. Put 2 stitches in that unused single crochet in between. And we're skipping those 3 skipped single crochet from the previous row. We're not doing anything there. Okay, to be more clear, so once we've finished that same V stitch, two legs, 2 double crochet in the same chain, single crochet underneath. Then we have this gap of 3, 1, 2, 3. We're not doing anything with that. We're not doing anything with this chain. We're skipping to the next V, which is right here, which is a double crochet, chain 3, skip 1 stitch, double crochet in the next. And in that single crochet in between, that is where we're putting the next group of stitches. So the next group of stitches are double crochet, 1, 2, 3, and then in that same stitch, we're doing another double crochet all the way around. Okay, do you know what I mean by all the way around? So not in front of the chain 3 loop, and not behind it, but over around it. So yarn over, insert your hook into that next available single crochet. Allow the working yarn to wrap all the way around this chain 3 and grab it. So you're buttoning it down underneath that double crochet. Okay, so go ahead and let it be bulky. It's a hat. You want warmth, so it's all good. So you can put a stitch marker in the top of the first stitch just for the sake of knowing where you are if you want, but it'll be pretty clear to you where your join is, like with the seam, like underneath the rib of the hat. And mine is actually pretty darn flat. Where is it? Here it is. Here it is. I can feel it. So here is where the start of the round is. I could just sort of feel it more than I can see it. Okay, so let's get all the way around. Just a few more to go here. And then I'll show you how to keep working in a spiral. Okay, so when we've gotten all the way around, we're going to chain 1. And in that first, instead of joining in that first chain before we made the double crochet, I'm just going to skip all that and I'm going to double crochet in the next stitch. Now, according to the last video we did, when we separate out this V stitch right here, in between are actually 2 loops. Okay, there's one here and there's one here, because we are kind of doing a mosaic where we're not working in the row below, but the row below that one. So not in the usual row where we normally would work, but one below it in here. So at the bottom, if you separate it out, each of your little V's will look like this, where there's a bottom chain, a chain 3, and then the one you just did. And we're going to place our double crochet V's in between these 2 here where you can see my nail poking up. So we're going to separate those out, double crochet in between them, chain 1, 2, 3, double crochet in the same exact spot, chain 1. Now skip everything until you get to the next V-stitch, where you will kind of spread it out, find those 2 little rows there, and in between them, this is where you will put your hook. Okay, and this is what nestles it down and makes it look mosaic-y and makes these look like ribs. Okay, so this is what we are doing henceforth. So let's do one more and then I'll let you go on this and we'll move to the next thing. So we will find our next V. So we're skipping the double crochet, the chain 1, the double crochet. We are finding the 2 little loops here. We'll have to dig for them. And in between the 2 loops here and here, in this spot here in between, I am going to place my hook. And we are going to either spiral or you can join, totally up to you, but I prefer the spiral because then there's no discernible seam. And we will do these stitches all the way around. And that is how our pattern is built. And it will like stack neatly inside each other to fill up the space. So once you get all the way to the height of your hat, for me, the height of my hat ended up being 24 rounds, but essentially I just tried to use up the ball. Okay, so you might get 23, you might get 25, depending on your gauge, depending on if you made your hat bigger or smaller, you may get more or fewer rounds. Okay, now for my comfort, I ended up folding up the brim. So the height here between the pom-pom and the brim is not really that critical. You just need it to be at least 8 inches or so, okay? But try it on as you go along. Put it on a mannequin head if you need to. So then when we get to the top of the final round, say we are using the final round here, I am going to work in the pattern. Sorry about Hobie there. He must see somebody out the window. Oh, people walking. Oh my goodness, people walking. Beautiful day. So we will go ahead and do the same pattern with working in between like we had been. But instead of doing a V, I'm just doing 3 double crochets all in that space. I'm trying to like fatten up that V. So there's just 3 single crochets there, and then we'll skip over here and do 3 here. It's okay if it's tight. If you, it's okay if you're puckering the top of the tube of the hat together, because it needs to do that anyway. But we're just filling in that gap with 3 double crochets in each of the home plates, you know, as we separate out those loops. Okay, so we're just filling in the space so that the top of the hat is more, less holy, keeping the warmth in and filling up so that you have a more solid place to weave. So then, easy from here, you will just assume that we have gotten all the way around, join with a slip stitch in the top of the first double crochet, give yourself a nice long tail, because then you will take a yarn needle, these are too small. Take a yarn needle and taking the, I don't want to cut my yarn. Do I cut my yarn? I guess I can cut my yarn. Okay. It's like, oh, I could make another hat. And I guess, okay. So I could make another hat with this. So we will put the cut end through the yarn needle, and we will essentially gather this up. So after this has been all the way around, we're just going to do kind of a running stitch through all of the double crochets. And then as you pull the yarn tight, it'll gather the top up in a nice, you'll just pull it really, really, really tight until it gathers here. So you'll do a long running stitch, gathering it up. And then leave yourself a good amount of tail so that you can sew the pom-pom on. So whether you do a pom-pom or don't do a pom-pom, totally up to you. But this one has a, can you see it in here? Yeah, this one has a double string attached to it. Okay, so I don't remember if it came tied or not, but you can make sure it's untied and then put a needle on it and weave it through if you want. But I just took those strings and I just crocheted over them a whole bunch and sewed it on with yarn. But you can also sew it on with the strings that are attached to the pom-pom. It has 2 strings that come down off the pom-pom, kind of like an inverted Christmas tree ornament that would hang on a string. Looks like that, only we're putting the pom-pom at the top. And that's your finished hat. Woohoo! I hope you've loved this project. Please leave a like, please subscribe, please leave comments or questions, please click the links if you feel like it and do a little shopping. It does not cost you any extra. I might get a kickback, I appreciate it, but more than anything, I love it when you watch the videos and I love it when you join me on weekday mornings for the 5 Minute Crochet Podcast. Have a great day, bye.